All right. We are live. How is everybody doing today? It is February the 26th, 2025, and this is episode 136 of Calibrated with Scott. I am Scott, obviously. Good to see everybody in here. We have quite a bit to talk about, a week's worth of updates, a week's worth of news in regards to Ukraine. So we got a lot to talk about. I was going to do a live stream on Monday or Tuesday, but I haven't done my Wednesday late live stream in a while. So I was like, I'll just hold off and do it now. And then probably I'll do another one on Friday or Saturday of this week. So look out for that. If you are new here or you are here regularly, but for some reason you haven't clicked that subscribe button yet, please go click that subscribe button, click that like button. If you like this, leave a comment, helps me with the algorithm, helps me get seen, gets more people in this chat, better questions. Everything goes our way, everybody. If you guys want to throw up where you are from, I always like to see where you guys are from. And I am going to just retweet my live stream real fast, and then we'll get into it. All right. Done and done. I hope everybody had an amazing week as you guys are putting in your locations and where you're at and everything. I had a very fun weekend. Got to go to West Texas, which if anybody has ever been to West Texas, it's kind of like Texas is like a weird place. Texas is like four or five different countries kind of all packed into one. You have like the eastern side of Texas, which is like Texarkana. It's different. It's like pine forest. You have like Dallas area. You have like Austin, Houston, all different. You have the coast. You have like El Paso, like Tex-Mex area, and then you have like the Panhandle where nothing is happening. So it's a very weird place. You can drive for like 13 hours and still be inside of Texas. It's pretty crazy. And yeah, so that's what I did over the weekend. Went to oil country and got to experience a little bit of that. So, all right, let's go through some of these. Pakistan, as always. Azam, good to see you. Macedonia, Merry Christmas, Aiden. Thank you. New Zealand, obviously, AMK mapping. Sarah Brown, the kitchen. Good joke. Utah, thank you for tuning in from the Mormon dry state. North Ireland, not to be confused with real Ireland. Hi from Serbia, Bosnia, Chesavyar, Sacramento, North Korea, England, New Jersey. Masshole reporting. Florida, Australia, Chile, Iceland. God, man, we got people in from all over today. Paris, France, Ontario, Canada, South Texas. Wales, Northern Ireland, Portugal, DC, Chile. Awesome, guys. Awesome. Vero Beach, Florida. Oh, Vero Beach, Florida. Central Coast. Awesome, guys. Awesome, awesome, awesome. It is good to see so many people from all over the world in here today. Welcome in, everybody. As always, I like to start out with our updates, our map updates. So we are just going to bounce right over to that and get right into it. Remember that if you guys have questions, you can always ask those through Super Chats, and I will answer every question that is asked through Super Chat. If you guys want to throw up your questions as well, I will answer questions as I see them. All right. So we have some pretty important updates to talk about, some pretty significant stuff going on. I'm going to leave the Kursk Oblast for last, as that's sort of the focus of today's episode. I'm going to just go over the smaller updates. So here in the very, very north of the Kharkov region on the Russian border, Russia-Ukraine border, Russian forces have expanded or started, I guess, what you would consider a new bridgehead. I would consider this part of the same operation right here, expanding the Oskal bridgehead into the Kharkov region. And with that, they have fully captured the village of Topoli. I don't know. But just a small crossing here. I'm not sure if they actually crossed the river or if they just pushed in from the border region. But this is what I was talking about and referring to. I made a post about it on X. You guys can go take a look at that. And basically, I was just talking about the issues that are going to be springing up from the Oskal bridgehead here. And one of those was Russian incursions, not only on this portion of the border right here, but also through this portion of the border using the villages of Valruki and the village of Volokhonovka right here. These two cities, because they have very large railway networks, so logistics is pretty easy through these areas. You can see there's a large train station here, train depot. And there's another one down here as well. Both of those can be used to launch offensives into this northern Kharkov region. And with this Oskal bridgehead opening, there is a very narrow gap right here that isn't separated by the Seversky Donets River here. So this is sort of a pocket developing here. And I would be not too surprised if you see a Russian incursion along this section of the border right here, just to capture basically everything from Vovchansk down here to Cherhiv, and then over to Kupiansk. So as soon as the battle for Kupiansk begins, as soon as this bridgehead is sort of removed, which we will talk about here in a second, then I expect an operation to begin in this northern region of Kharkov. It is at the extent of Ukrainian logistics, so it is difficult for the Ukrainians to keep this area supplied, whereas the Russians, it is at the very shortest point of their logistics across the border, making it a prime area for Russian advancement. So just keep an eye out on this area. Make that a little bigger. Hello from Holland. Nice, man. Hello from Ottawa, Canada. Scott! Optimistic future. Good to see you. Hello from Tanzania. All right. Good to see you guys. All right. Russian forces have advanced slightly along the Oskil River to the south, entering the village of Holubivka. And there are reports that Russian forces have also assaulted through these tree lines and are near or in the village of Kindrashivka. So again, more movement here, a lot of pressure being put on Kupiansk and this crossing here as well. Ukrainians have, by and large, it seems, have stabilized this area. But what the Russians tend to do is that the Russians will attack in an area, make some important gains like they did capturing Dorvichina, Zapadne, just expanding this bridgehead and then making it stable. And then they tend to consolidate gains. Ukrainians tend to respond to the area, and then the Russians begin pushing somewhere else. And we can just see that up here in the north. They began pushing up here in the north as soon as this bridgehead probably for the majority became difficult to advance out of, as the Ukrainians have responded to this. However, the Ukrainians are in such a bad way in terms of manpower and equipment that any response to a new hole or gap that needs to be plugged results in a new gap or hole being opened somewhere else along the front line, and then the Russians exploiting that and taking advantage of it. The Russians just have such a distinct manpower advantage now across the entire front line that the Ukrainians are constantly playing catch up. We have a small advance at the very back of this bridgehead right here of the Ukrainians. Russians just sort of closing in some of the gaps here. Again, not a ton of movement here. This pocket has held extremely well. I still really don't understand fully why the Ukrainians are holding this the way that they are, especially with this happening to the north, but it is what it is. All right, moving down to the LPR Donetsk, Luhansk border region. The Russian forces have advanced out of Balaka Zorovka and into Novoyubivka. So this is just a small advance by the Russians across the Zhibyets River, and further expanding the bridgehead that was just south of, or just across from Terny and in the village of Ivanivka. Again, not a overly significant advance, but this advance does put the Russians first off across the river, which is important. And this entire section right here, as it expands, is going to compromise Ukrainian logistics into this Shibyansky forestry. And this whole area could be in danger for the Ukrainians very soon. I expect that they're going to try to hold this with everything they can in Kursk and in Liman. But yeah, this area is going to become one of the weaker areas here soon. All right, moving down into the Siversk area. Bilohorivka has been captured by Russian forces. More importantly, the chalk mound, or the Terikon, whatever you guys want to call it here, has been captured by Russian forces, along with a majority of the fortifications in this this forested area here. The Russians still need to progress out along the high ground, along this tree line here. Once they do that, this entire Severodonetsk River region right here, like along the river, will fall to the Russians, as it's just on the low ground. Same with any of this territory over here. So goal now for the Russians, push out along this, and then we can start talking about the beginning of the Battle of Siversk. All right. Let me see. We got a question. Nice. Brother, I must say you are right. You always stay with Putin, and now just as you always expected, they have won. It is over for Ukraine. I don't know if it's over for Ukraine. I mean, I do think that it is over in the sense that there's no way that Ukraine is going to win the war, yes. I think that Ukraine right now is basically just fighting for a better negotiating position, and as it goes on, it gets worse and worse and worse, right? And the Ukraine is currently in a battle between not only themselves and Russia, but their allies, and what their allies see for the future of Ukraine, and what they see for the future of Ukraine, and what the Russians see for the future of Ukraine. So they're not done yet. There's still fighting to be done. There's still plenty of Ukrainians that Zelensky will send to the slaughter. But Ukraine does look like they are on the back foot. Absolutely. And it doesn't seem like there's any stabilization to that back footage coming anytime soon. So I would tend to agree with you there. However, the Ukrainians are definitely not done. And I will get into how the Ukrainians will continue to fight with what is going on with the US and stuff like that in just a moment. Thank you for your question. All right. Russian forces have advanced in Chasiv Yar, have made a small advance into some more of these high-rise buildings here. There's now just a very small strip that the Ukrainians maintain. They will likely lose this in the coming days, as it just doesn't have any strategic depth. And that should be the end of the Battle of Chasiv Yar. For the most part, I don't think there's even any structure up here. I don't know if this is still considered Chasiv Yar. I don't know where the actual territorial boundaries of the city are, but with the capture of this center portion here, that should mark the end of the Battle of Chasiv Yar. Then the Battle of Mokalivka, and back here we got Stinky, Stepochke, Chevron. All of these battles will then begin, which is, I would just say, the greater Battle of Chasiv Yar, but the battle for Chasiv Yar itself is coming to an end. All right, down here in Kursk. All right, so there was a Ukrainian assault here. I am not going to update my map for the Ukraine. So when I watch assaults, there are some times where you'll watch assaults and you'll see Russians, they'll be assaulting a position, and they'll get completely destroyed, right? You'll see multiple vehicles get hit. The Russians run away. I don't consider that a geolocation I use for editing my maps. If a Russian assault occurs and they lose half of the assault force, but half of the assault force lands, is able to potentially consolidate positions, then I consider it more of a mappable outcome, right? What we saw here from the Ukrainians was a push through what is a likely push through this industrial zone here, which has been the front line. It has been claimed fully captured, but you know how my map works specifically is that there is a gray zone that is not talked about, because I think for me to claim what a gray zone is, I have no idea. I would have to be on the front line. I would have to be able to see exactly where the security, or like a safety security zone ends, you get into an uncontrolled or contested area, which is a gray zone. I don't have any idea about that. I don't think anybody truly does. You could just give a 1,000-meter like berth or whatever, but I don't feel like doing that. I think that you can use your imagination to understand where a gray zone could potentially be. I have moved this back into Ukrainian control, although I did not give Ukrainians the control portion of it, as in I did not mark it blue, because I do not think that they fully control this area. I think this area is in the gray zone. The Ukrainians did conduct an assault, probably just down this road, pushed right into this area, where on video they were subsequently destroyed by FPVs, drones, and other munitions. So until I see a further updated geolocation, I will not consider this Ukrainian controlled. This is an assault that seems to have been rather completely destroyed. We don't know though. So I moved the Terikon and the industrial zone back into a Ukrainian controlled / gray zone position. Could the British defeat Russia in a world war? Absolutely not. I don't know if you've ever looked at what Britain is or how their military is aligned, but no. I mean, without U.S. support, no. Thank you for your question, though. All right. Moving over to this side of Toretsk. Russian forces have advanced into these tree-lined areas. There are former Ukrainian fortifications in this region. Just a general advancement of the front here, nothing overly significant. If you go to Deep State, Deep State's map is still super goofy. I mean, Deep State's whole map is super goofy. They're now doing half-day updates. Like I saw, the 26th, 1 out of 2, and then 2 out of 2, and I don't know why they're doing that. But yeah, so their map shows that the gray zone goes all the way into the industrial zone here, and all the way. It makes Toretsk look very goofy, and I don't think that that's how the map actually looks. So, all right, over here, just a small Russian advance in between Vadyane Druhe and Baranivka. I might have said this one in the last one. I can't remember if I actually updated this position. I think I did, but I can't remember. I cannot remember. Again, as I've said multiple times, guys, do not expect a ton of advances along this front. This is the shortest area of Ukrainian logistics, and we're actually seeing a lot of concerted counterattack efforts in this area by the Ukrainians. In this area, there's some contention over Lizivka here. There's some contention over Korolin. The Deep State claims that the Ukrainians control this. I haven't seen anything to show that. But I'm not updating this portion of the map at all at this point, because it's so stagnant. The Ukrainians are attempting to counterattack significantly, but not really achieving much results there. But the Russians don't seem to be aggressively attacking in this area as much as they were I would say 2 months ago. This whole front has sort of just stalled and stabilized, considering logistic length for Ukrainians versus the Russians. All right. Here in Andrivka, Russian forces have advanced and captured a small fortification in this area. Nothing major, but again, just advancing out. That is the end of the Andrivka fortification line. So now that ends. This has now been entirely captured. There are Ukrainian sources claiming that there's still a Ukrainian garrison in Ulakli, which I don't really understand how that's possible. They've been there for over a week or a week and a half now without any support. So I don't really think this is true. I think this is a Ukrainian cope. But the fact that they're talking about a Ukrainian garrison stuck in this area is very, very, very bad for the Ukrainians. I don't know how that is even possible. I don't think it's possible, but that's what Ukrainian sources are referencing. So, but outside of that, a further Russian advance along the Vovocha River here and the Sukulayali River, meeting up at the end of there is like this little the Vovocha River runs down right here a little bit into the Sukuliali River. So that they've met up along that water boundary there, as well as advanced further into the southern portion of Constantinople, and have further isolated this Ukrainian garrison in the north, if there is anything remaining in this area. All right, here is the largest of the updates over the last week. A series of updates reaching 12.2 square miles, which, if you guys don't know, I can do a quick square mile thing in just a second. Something like 30 square kilometers right here, captured by the Russians outside of Velika Novoselka. You can see how important Velika Novoselka was to the defense of this area, why the Ukrainians chose to hold it for so long. Once it was lost, it gave the Russians a launching point for further operations to the north, where they have advanced into the village of Skudne and have captured it, as well as advanced just to the outskirts of Burlatske, where there are some Russian sources saying that they have entered this small village here. Again, it's just basically 2 roads, but not overly significant. I am going to take you guys over to the topographical map to show you sort of the direction I think the Russians are going. I do believe they're going to continue to village hop here up this low ground along the river, just as they approach this road. If they can cut this road, it will complicate everything in this whole section of the front. So that should be a priority of the Russians, is to reach this road along one of these lines of advance, whether it's up the river, up the road here towards Bahatir. Anyway, they are able to accomplish it. Getting up to this road and complicating logistics into this entire section of the front will be pretty crucial, because this area seems to be rather strong for the Ukrainians in terms of their defense. On a scaled back note, I'm going to take you guys over to the topographical map. We can look at, here is Velika Novoselka. Here is the river that the Russians are currently advancing along. I'll zoom it in just a little bit so you can get some of the names of the town. Here is the village that the Russians are just on the outside, the outskirts of right here, as well as this village. So the front line kind of runs right down through here. The Russians will be looking to advance through that village, through Shevchenko here, following the high ground. And really, the overarching goal for the Russians in this area should be to reach this large forest plantation area in the Dnipropetrovsk region. So not necessarily reaching it, but you can see that this is going to be where the Ukrainians are going to sit on their high ground in Propeznaya, and the Russians will be able to hold this water boundary, this low ground here, from this high ground in this area right on the Dnipropetrovsk border region. I will go back over to my map so I can show you guys what I'm talking about. The Russians want to advance. So here they are on the outskirts of these 2 villages. They want to advance into Shevchenko. Here is the Dnipropetrovsk Donetsk Oblast border right here. And here is this forested plantation on the other side of the Vovocha River. So basically, the Russians want to push out and meet the front along the Vovocha River here on the Dnipropetrovsk Oblast boundary line. Now, do the Russians cross that boundary line? Again, we'll have to see, but you can see that the Russians are now very, very close to Dnipropetrovsk from the south as well. We're looking at something like 10 kilometers. So pretty cool. All right, we'll go up and talk about Kursk now. Hope you guys are doing good. All right, up in the Kursk incursion area, the Ukrainian Kursk incursion zone is getting tighter and tighter. There is constant battling in these 3 villages, but now it does appear that Parogi, Marayivka, Orlovka, and Novaya Sochina have been fully captured. I might have mapped that slightly early, but it kind of goes back and forth because this is just this is sort of the gray zone area of the map right here. So Russians have captured Perjekbi, Pogorbiki. Bro, the names they just have to have the weirdest combinations of consonants to mess it up. But this has been captured. This is the extent of the Ukrainian incursion zone. So the pressure is mounting from all directions. And as we can see here, Russian forces have advanced out of Severdikivo, Kavovo, oh my God, dude, and into Lebedivka, capturing a majority of the village. Again, advancing along this highway in the direction of Sudzha. Russian forces have also reportedly advanced into the Sumy region here, into Novaki, and are now very, very close to the only, or one of the only, supply routes into the Kursk region. There is a secondary supply route that runs along this road right here. And I'm going to show you guys two videos. So one is Sudzha, runs right into here. And then I don't really know where it goes from there. Yeah, I don't really know where it goes once it reaches Ukraine. It's stop. Wait, is this a road? Does it follow the border? No, that goes back into Russia. So I don't know. They must just be crossing fields here to get to that road. I'm not quite sure how they get to that road, but I'm going to take you guys over to my Twitter page now, where we will look at. I'm gonna play a video. I'm gonna pause a video through multiple portions of it, and I'm going to show you guys both this road right here. So the first road I will show you will be the main R200 road in and out of Sudzha from Yanakivka. And then the second one I will show you is the secondary road here out of Sudzha to the south. So let me go over and do that. Okay. So I'm not going to show these because I think I will get in trouble. So I'm going to just play them. Like I'm going to fast forward through them. So and I know that sounds weird, but it works different for some reason. The algorithm doesn't usually catch it. So this is the main road. This is just one small portion of that main road, but you can see how there is just pretty crazy losses just even in this small area. A lot of civilian vehicles, a lot of military vehicles, because the Ukrainians are using both for logistics in this region. And you can see that this is just one small portion of that R200 road that was severely damaged. Okay, now I'm going to show you this 5-minute video. And this portion is along that secondary route. So the secondary route to the south, the one where I couldn't find out the road, and the red arrows you're going are knocked out vehicles. Okay, so I'm just going to slowly advance. There's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39, 40, 41, and then you can see some of it burning down there. Okay, so that's just a small glimpse at sort of what's going on. That is the situation just coming in and out of the region. These aren't losses on the front. These aren't losses in Sudzha to artillery, glide bombs, whatever your prescribed. This is just losses coming in and out of the territory, and these are all the losses that have not been recovered by the Ukrainian armed forces. So, totaled losses. You can only imagine how many Max Pros have lost, axles or wheels, or have been hit by FPVs and have been pulled out to be salvaged. The numbers are likely much, much higher. And again, those were just two small portions of those roads. So that those roads into Sudzha, into the Kursk incursion zone, it is a road of death, right? The Ukrainians get sucked into these dilemmas where the Russians have their flanks compromised, and the Ukrainians continue to force salients using singular or two roads that are just constantly bombarded, and they suffer such significant losses just entering and exiting from a region that it makes the entire incursion completely not worth it. Let alone the additional losses from active combat in that zone, which are just monumental. I mean, we're seeing FPV, fiber optic FPV drones hitting anything they want in Sudzha and in the surrounding area. So I can't imagine how high Ukrainian losses are in this region. It has to be unbelievable. And it's getting worse and worse by the day. We have a question. Nothing to add. Thanks for your work. Thank you. Optimistic future. I appreciate you being in here, man. Will the Yanks screw that 500 billion out of Ukraine? We are going to talk about that right now because I am done with my map updates. So yeah, we can talk about that. I do have an article here that I wanted to show you guys, and we can just talk about that. So yeah, we'll move into that. Oh man. Okay. So this article is titled Draft of Mineral Deal Features Vague References to Ukrainian Security. So for those of you who don't know, Trump came up with this idea, the United States, I don't know if it was just Trump, came up with this idea of a rare earth mineral deal for Ukraine. Basically, Ukraine is going to pay back to America the debt that it has incurred through its war in terms of financial and military support. And this has rubbed the Ukrainians the wrong way. This has rubbed the Europeans the wrong way. This has rubbed pro-Ukrainians the wrong way because I don't know, there's just this idea that the United States is supposed to go around taking care of everybody's business, subsidizing everybody. We've been doing it for Europe for decades. So the Europeans are particularly upset by this because they have enjoyed basically being a socialist state that's defense is propped up by the United States defense and spending. We cover NATO basically almost entirely. It's been a discussion by Trump for, over 10 years, talking about NATO paying their share sort of deal, at least meeting their defense spending requirements, right? And when I say defense spending, that means all military spending. They just call it defense spending. This agreement was a fleecing, in my opinion. The way that this agreement is basically structured, this is not a way to get Ukraine future security guarantees from the United States. This is not a way for Ukraine to join NATO. This is a way for the U.S. to get back pay for their support for Ukraine. And they're doing it by basically getting Zelensky to sell out future ventures with Ukrainian minerals, rare earth minerals. So this doesn't include current projects, but future projects. So if they build like a new mine or something, I guess. I haven't read it all the way through, but basically that's what it sounds like. But I wanted to talk about this because I've been specifically mentioning what Pete Hegseth, the U.S. Secretary of Defense, had mentioned when he was in Europe a while back, which is the division of labor. This is something that I've been talking about a lot recently on my Telegram channel, and I'm specifically talking about it because this is how I see this going forward, right? The US is going to back off, is going to focus on Iran and China. They are going to leave the Ukraine project and the containment of Russia to Europe. That is why they are forcing Europe to increase their defense spending. In fact, Marco Rubio just came out yesterday, I believe, and said that basically if NATO countries do not reach their minimum required defense spending goals, that the US will no longer subsidize these countries, which is crazy to just say that the US is subsidizing European countries. Just saying that phrase is a crazy thing, but it is absolutely true. And what they're doing is they're not abandoning Europe. They're forcing Europe to step up and do what they have to do now that America is not this all powerful hegemony, right? Now that the US has a near peer in China, and they've been drugged through 3 years of war in Ukraine, they're dealing with stuff in the Middle East. There's a lot going on for the US right now. And this is basically the time where Europe is going to have to start carrying their own weight. And that goes towards the Ukraine project. So I'm going to go ahead and read this, and I'll get your guys' opinion on it. Draft of mineral deal features vague references to Ukrainian security, and I want you guys to pay very close attention to how this is worded. A copy of the agreement obtained by the New York Times says that the United States supports Ukraine's efforts to obtain guarantees needed to establish lasting peace. They support Ukraine's efforts to obtain it. They are not going to assist Ukraine in those efforts directly. Those security guarantees will come from who? Who do you think they're going to come from? You guessed it, Europe, right? So European defense spending goes up. Potentially a ceasefire is reached to buy Europe more time to get this whole ball rolling. And then we will end up seeing a continuation of this war in the way that it was always going to continue, right? And this is why I talked about Putin, not being led by the nose this time. He's been watching the U.S. deal for years, 20 years. He knows how the U.S. operates. It does not change. It didn't change with Bush. It didn't change with Obama. It did not change with Trump the first time. It did not change with Biden, and it is not going to change with Trump the second time. I don't think you guys should be drinking any Trump Kool-Aid. The U.S. has geostrategic interests that cannot be ignored or pushed aside. There are just specific things that cannot go by the wayside if the U.S. wants to maintain its hegemony. And I'm going to tell you that President Trump is not in the business of losing U.S. hegemony. No U.S. president is in that business, so this will continue. But I'm going to read a little bit of this. A draft of an agreement calling for Ukraine to hand over to the United States revenue from natural resources includes new language referring to security guarantees, a provision Kiev had pressed for vigorously in negotiations. The reference is vague and does not signal any specific American commitment to safeguarding Ukraine's security. A copy of the agreement obtained Wednesday by the New York Times included a sentence stating that the United States supports Ukraine's efforts to obtain security guarantees needed to establish lasting peace. Previous drafts did not have the phrase on security guarantees, but at a cabinet meeting on Wednesday, President Trump put Ukraine on notice that, quote, "I'm not going to provide security guarantees beyond very much." Whatever that means. He added at a meeting in Washington, "We are going to have Europe do that." Guys, they are telling you what they are going to do. I get so this has bugged me for 3 years, right? The Russians have openly stated what they are planning to do to everybody. Their operations have really not been much of a secret. I mean, battlefield operations are different. I'm talking about general objectives of the goal of the war, right? What are the Russian war aims? Putin has come out on stage multiple times over the last 3 years and specifically pointed out what his problems are with Western interference, what needs to happen for peace to be achieved, what the Russians will continue to do until that situation, those circumstances are achieved, and how far the Russians are willing to go. People are like, what's Putin going to do next? What are the goals? They openly say them all the time. You just have to sift through all of this noise and garbage to actually find what they're going to do. And the U.S. has actually been very consistent in this position the entire time. This is why I've said negotiations are not going to be happening. At least I don't think they should. If the Russians get baited into a ceasefire negotiation, as European defense spending is going up, and as America is talking about division of labor and talking about moving to the Chinese threat, as the Russian-Chinese relationship is strengthening, if Russia somehow gets pulled away from China, that close relationship, by the United States, Trump is by far goated. I have no other words. It would be wild to me to see a relations mended and thawed and reconnected that quick. And if that happens, I mean, I will have very harsh criticisms of the Kremlin and of Moscow, because that is just, I mean, could you be led by the nose any harder if that ends up happening? So I'm going to continue watching that. My position right now is that there should be no negotiations, because any negotiations that you're seeing right now are a Minsk negotiation. They're not an end to the conflict. It's not going to solve any of these issues. It is going to delay this and turn this into a bigger war later on down the road, the way that it had when Crimea occurred and the Russians signed Minsk I and Minsk II, which ended up leading to the SMO. So it is just a continuation of the same patterns that we see from the West over and over and over again. And I implore you to not be entranced with Trump's chaos. He is a visible distraction, and he will say the wildest, craziest bullshit. He will throw anything at the wall and see what sticks. And he thrives off of that. He thrives off of nobody knowing what the hell he's actually going to do next. That is how he operates. He wrote an entire book on it, people. It is not hard to understand people and what they are going to do next. So yeah, that is sort of my position. What I really hope is that the Russians understand good cop, bad cop. I actually talked to Brian Berletic about this. By the way, Brian is going to be on my show on Friday. So I will be having a podcast on Friday because Brian will be on that one. I was talking about my own personal live stream, but I will be having an episode on Friday with Brian Berletic from the New Atlas. So tune into that. But I was having a conversation with him, and I literally said, I really hope the Russians understand good cop, bad cop, because this could be one of the most high-profile good cop, bad cop situations we have ever seen. You have the Biden administration, who is completely Russophobic, anti-Russian, going against them in every corner of the globe any way he can, sanctioning everything, not talking, head down, war. Then you have Trump come in, and he is this great unifier, great, the change is coming, the change that we've been waiting for, the draining of the swamp. You make these very public audits of everybody. You make it look like you're causing all of this fundamental change, which you might actually be, but it's not changing for change's sake. It's refinement, and it's for a refinement and efficiency's sake. So Trump is not changing the status quo in the U.S. government to change the U.S.'s foreign policy and change the U.S.'s position. No, he's trying to hone it and tighten it and make it much stronger and more capable. Like look at U.S. aid. U.S. aid is America's soft power, and influence around the globe. And you can see how much of that money was just being scalped and being inappropriately managed. Imagine if all of that money was appropriately managed to regime change in foreign countries and was actually going in the right direction. That's what Trump is doing. right? And this is something I see from the Z community a lot. A lot of the Z community, they've been super hyped on Trump, and I'm like, guys, he's not like, if you are a full pro Russian, you are Russian or something like that. This is not your friend. He's still your enemy. He's just talking different, and that's what everybody needs to understand, right? Should the Gazans treat Yankee promises with care? Yeah, no, I would not. Are you joking? Yeah, if I was anybody in Gaza, I would not take anything an American or Israeli said at all. I'd not as, even as far as I can throw it. That shit should be like a black hole. You shouldn't be able to even get close to it. That's my personal opinion. I don't think the U.S. can be dealt with at all. And from my position, every deal that the U.S. makes with people is just good for me, because I know we're going to come out on the better end of it. Do you agree Russia should go to the Dnieper River and use it as a geographical defense for strategic security? I think that would be the best way to end the war. I don't know if it has anything to do with strategic security. It's not World War II anymore. Russia is not going to get invaded through, the steppe by Nazis and all that happened. No, Russia has nukes now, so there's no grand maneuver war that's going to come in through Ukraine and push Russia back to the Urals and stuff like that. That's not going to happen anymore. So in terms of their strategic security, no. In terms of their internal security with Ukraine, absolutely. Yeah, the river would be perfect. In terms of their position, just their geostrategic positioning, yeah, that would be excellent. If the Russians could have the Black Sea be their almost inland lake and stuff like that, just like the Russian Empire. Yeah, that would be fantastic. But that is also maximalist for the Russians. And we'll see how it plays out. All right. But that was what I basically had to talk about the U.S.-Ukraine mineral deal. That was the only article I had. If you guys have some questions, go ahead and get in some questions. I'll just be looking at chat now. I am kind of done. I think that is most of what I wanted to talk about. Israel looks like they're going to just continue invading and annexing portions of Syria. They've been striking Damascus. So in terms of the Middle East, that's what's going on there. I don't know how everybody just ignores it. Israel just can create buffer zones and then annex territory wherever they want, and nobody says a goddamn word about it. Or people say words about it, but those people are ignored entirely. So that's crazy to me. That's crazy because that's exactly what Russia's doing. But we're supporting that one. It's just hypocrisy to the highest degree. So, can you address your thoughts on Kalin Gorescu getting arrested? Oh, that's the Romanian presidential candidate, right? What are the charges against him? Do you think he will run? Will he get put in jail? Yeah. So Romania, as you guys know, they annulled their the first round of their election results because they did not like how the election results came out. As the more pro-Russian, not even pro-Russian, just not so pro-Ukrainian candidate was winning. Then, they said that he was a Russian puppet, this, that, or the other. And then today, they found some millions of dollars in an underground floor safe in a building and a Russian passport. And of course, always when anybody gets caught red-handed in the EU, they always have Russian passports on them. It's like the classic. It like makes me not believe it almost, because it's the classic. Oh, look, we found the burnt Russian passport or whatever. It's that sort of deal. So yeah. It's just Europe. I mean, if you think there's democracy in Europe, you're putting on clown makeup step by step, right? So I think that he will get put in jail. I think that they are going to do Banana Republic political prisoner stuff. And I think it's exactly what it is. And all of you Euro bros should recognize this, because it will come to your country soon. Very, very soon. Because as soon as your guys' economies really hit the shitter and you guys have those massive immigration problems, they're going to lock you guys the down. That's going to happen. And every political adversary who has a chance, the AfD, all of these people, all going to be Russian assets. It's all going to be Russia, 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 Russia. It's going to be Orwellian. It's going to be a nightmare for you guys. Have you seen the Trump Gaza number one promo? Yeah, which is exactly what I'm talking about. Absolutely unhinged AI videos of Trump in Gaza and Elon Musk in Gaza, and it's all beautiful and everything. Just chaos, dude. All he does is just sows chaos. And that's what you guys have to recognize. Don't you just take any emotion out of it, take any logical thinking out of it. Remove yourself from that position, step back, look at what he does, what he says, what he posts, and look for a slightly deeper meaning in it. He's exaggerating. He's going so far this direction that when everything's said and done, it's exactly where he wants it in the middle, right? That's what he does all the time. So just don't get emotionally invested in your head about what is happening. Are you going to report on the Rwanda invasion of the Congo? I might, but I just have like so little interest in watching women and children getting slaughtered. I didn't really like it in Gaza, and Africa is one of these places, particularly the Congo, where they use like rape as a weapon and stuff. It is fucking brutal. AMK does a fantastic job. AMK mapping. Go check him out. He covers that. I will forward his stuff onto my page from here on out about Sudan, about Rwanda, about, the Congo. But I don't particularly have a lot of interest. I sent something to AMK, and it was, I think it was a woman and her child. I asked him if this was real because I don't follow the conflict enough. Yeah, it was the UAE-backed RSF as they were retreating through Sudan. This is not the Congo. This is Sudan. There's just a trail of war crimes. And I just sent him a picture of a woman and with her child strung up in a tree. And he was like, yeah, that's real. And I was like, okay, yeah, this is why I don't want to cover this shit. Even the most heinous things you see in Ukraine are daily occurrences in the Congo and in Palestine. So I'm just not overly interested in giving myself depression and PTSD. Historically, Russia was invaded through Ukraine. Yeah, that's what I mean. So but Russia historically did not have nukes when they were getting invaded. Good luck invading Russia now, right? Like Ukraine is like invading Russia, right? Like if there was actually something significant going on, there would be a nuclear response. At least in London, they're not speaking German. Not yet, brother. Give it time. If my family is anything to go off of, you guys will. I have it on good authority that most of the world will be speaking German in 30 to 40 years. So just be on the lookout for that. It's an Office joke, if anybody's seen The Office. Or a Chinese-German hybrid language. Question, how do you think Zelensky is feeling now overall? I think that he's in the squisher. I think that there's no good options for him going forward, and he's trying to navigate a very complex geopolitical atmosphere with a lot of people who really don't want to deal with him at all. So not good is how I would put it. I would not be sleeping if I was him. I would be just up trying to run through hypotheticals of how I can manage things and do all this stuff. Also, a lot of the cocaine probably would keep me up. Thanks for the answer. No problem, man. Thanks for the question. Let's see. Any more questions from you guys? A few months ago, it was revealed that the Subverse Direction, a general, made false advance reports. Do we know that the capture of... Yes, we do know it's real. We have geolocations. Also, those false reports were not about... The advances were not false reports from a general. The reports that were false, I believe, were loss. It happens in wars a lot. You know, they'll audit basically generals, and if there's any like waste or abuse happening, they'll be removed from their position. So I don't think it was about false advances being reported, but rather just not proper keeping of the front line. But I could be wrong. Question. What is the red line for Arab Gulf states report regarding Israel sending... I don't know, dude. I would say what they're doing right now should be the red line for Arab states. But Arab states are divisive among themselves. So like the UAE isn't going to say anything about Syria. Like, right? I think the red line really is if the Palestinians get massively displaced into their countries, that will be the red line. Like Egypt can't have 2 million Palestinians pushed into their country. I have not heard about the arrest warrant for Milorad Dodik. I don't know what that's about actually, but I'll look into it. How much territory do you think Russia will obtain? Is there an end in Ukraine, or will they eventually occupy all of Ukraine? No, I do not think they will eventually occupy all of Ukraine. I don't think that there's a need to. I don't think that there's a want to. I think that the Russians will go as far as they need to ensure that the conflict is over. The second that they can ensure that the conflict is over and Ukraine will not do what they are doing right now ever again, that is when you will see the Russians stop. If that means all of Ukraine, if that's what the West basically forces on Russia, then potentially that's what will happen. But most likely what you're going to see is an eventual regime change in Kiev. That regime change, if it's at all unfriendly to the United States or the West, will be the end of the conflict. What's your comment on the current events in Bosnia? Did I miss something big in Bosnia? I don't know what is happening exactly. I'm sorry, guys. I am not up to date on what is happening there. I would be curious if somebody wants to give me a short synapse. It's honestly funny how many people cheered for Assad's fall, and now their country is divided and getting invaded by Israel, and they're all silent. Yeah, because they're idiots. This is the thing: is you fall for propaganda, you fall into this pit where you think that you have this idea that somehow these Middle Eastern countries are going to be democratic and peaceful if a authoritarian leader is removed, right? Was Assad the best guy? No, absolutely not. Is the Middle East the best place? No. And sometimes you need authoritative individuals who stay in power to maintain stability in a region, right? Democracy does not work everywhere, especially when you have power brokers on all sides dictating how that democracy works and using it as pawns in their game, right? It's not free and untainted democracy. No, it's a giant chessboard. So yeah, this was my argument for Assad. You might not like him, but he's the devil you know. Where the Kurds getting bombed by the Turks, they were a little bit, but all the time when Assad was in there, No, it wasn't happening, right? Was there, I mean, since 2018, has it really been that bad in Syria? I mean, other than the fact that it's completely divided and there was at least peace, right? Now you have Jawani who doesn't know what the hell he's doing. You have the U.S. who's preparing to leave potentially. You have the Turks who are about to invade and take over Kurdish areas, and then you have the Israelis who are just going to push in basically into Damascus eventually. So that's what you have going on there. But Iran is evil and Iran must pay, and Assad was at least talking to Iran. Could 10 million more African engineers help the UK? Yeah, just take them all from like Morocco and Somalia and Libya. Yeah, for sure. There'd be so many bridges built. The arrest warrant I talked about for the president located in the Serb portion of Bosnia. I mean, this is just the constant back and forth, right? I really don't know enough about the current Serbian Bosnian situation. I know that they have like the license plate thing is a constant issue, stuff like that. So I honestly don't know. I would be just shot in the dark if I told you. So apologies, not my area at all. Is Syria even a country? Not really anymore. It's just the space in between Iraq, Turkey, and Israel. Did you work out today? Yes, I did. Hit chest. All right, guys, I think that's where I'm going to wrap it up. That brings us to an hour and 1 minute. Thank you guys so much for all your questions. Thank you for tuning in and keeping this chat lively, man. It's so nice going back and forth. It also gives me an extra 20 minutes of content answering your guys' questions. If you have further questions, my DMs are always open. You can message me on Telegram. You can leave a message in Ballistic Brotherhood with my @. I will get to it. I'm always open for conversation, guys. Hit me up. Talk to me if you have anything you want to say. Other than that, be safe, and I will see you guys Friday night for my episode with Brian Berletic from the New Atlas. Take care, be safe, and I'll see you on the next